James, good afternoon. How's everything?
Everything's going fine. How about yourself?
Well, that's good. Good to talk to a recent graduate.
Yeah.
Congrats on that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So let's I had two, if I might, just to start. Why don't we start with that? Right? Like what does that mean to you?
It means a lot. Going to college, your goal is to, first of all, end up with a college degree and being a college athlete. You hope to get the opportunity to play in the NFL, and I'm fortunate to still be playing currently and don't take that for granted either.
When you shared that with your mom, what was her reaction?
Oh, she was definitely excited. The goal was kind of, me and my wife kind of thought about was to surprise both my mom and my dad. I was taking classes ever since last spring, so the goal was kind of to surprise them with a degree. But once everything happened, we told her that I was taking classes, so she kind of knew what was going on, and she was definitely excited about it because every off season, her and my dad would always ask me if I was taking classes and when I was going to get it done. Say how difficult it would be to do when you have kids, which it kind of was. So that made it a little bit more challenging, but it definitely was good to finally finish.
James, how is your mom doing?
She's continuing to do better. Obviously, it's a long process, and I'm sure there's a lot that runs through her mind that she may not necessarily tell me, but I know she's a fighter, that's for sure, and every day she'll continue to do better and better.
And I know I said two and I took three. If I can make it four, uh, tell me about coming back and just sort of how you what was your experience like, in free agency?
It's definitely a different experience. Obviously, with COVID and everything too, it's a little bit different with that and salary cap and all that. But it's good to be back, be with familiar faces and guys that I know, and get back in the locker room with these guys and bounce back and do better than what we did last year and improve from it.
Next, we'll go to Ian Steele, then Kari Thompson.
Hey, James, welcome back.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Going back to the degree, you mentioned, talking to your mom about it, and I'm wondering what her reaction was, when you told her that you were taking classes. It must have been kind of a proud moment for her to know that you were fulfilling a promise that you made to your parents.
Yeah, she definitely started clapping her hands and was excited that I was actually doing it. And actually, the pandemic actually was fortunate for me because my final class, I was able to take it online when typically I had to be on campus. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise. And like I said, just happy that my wife and my parents, they kept me motivated to finish it, and just good to finally be done.
Glad you made her clap her hands and celebrate. That's great. Thanks, James.
No problem.
Next up, we'll go to Kari Thompson. But James, do you mind tilting your screen down just a little bit, please? Just a little bit. We'll center that a little bit better. Thank you. So go ahead, Kari, and then we'll go to Mark Daniels.
Sure. How you doing, James? So former life science graduate student myself, I actually wanted to ask you about the degree itself. Like, what got you into doing life science communications, and what do you think you might do with that degree? I know you have a foundation that you got working with youth. So I was just kind of wondering if you had any plans specifically for using that degree for your outreach.
Oh, well, originally going into college, I wanted to do business, and after like a semester of that, my interest in that kind of deterred a little bit, and I wanted to do communications, but at Wisconsin, they don't have just strictly communications, so life science communication was the closest thing to it. And as I, year to year, just taking those classes, it became more and more interesting because you kind of talk about real life stuff and things that's going on in current situations, especially with COVID and everything in the pandemic. Life science communication was a huge factor, kind of relaying messages on how, the vaccine or how COVID can affect different people. So I'm not sure what exactly I want to do with it, but I think it's very, something that's very commonly talked about, and I feel like I can I use communication in my profession, obviously, what I'm doing right now. So kind of using things that I've learned with football and learned with school, just finding ways to use both of those to find something that I'm truly interested in once I'm done.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, it kind of providing a background in terms of science with COVID. I mean, how much of, I guess that experience, kind of studying these things, how much of that did you kind of use in terms of communicating things about the vaccine, whether it's conversations with people close to you or, teammates or, what have you?
Yeah, we obviously it's a hot topic for sure. You talk about it with my family, talk about it with classmates and plenty of classes. Is something that is finding ways to get people to understand things more easily because science isn't a thing that everybody understands. And myself, I'm not the complete 100% understanding of everything. So it's being able to kind of like dumb it down so everybody understands what's going on. I think that's what's most important because not everybody is gonna understand the scientific way of speaking and just finding ways for everybody to be able to understand and make an informed decision. I think that's what's most important.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Well,
Next up, Mark Daniels. And then if anybody else has a question for James, please raise your hand.
Hey, James. Hope all's well over there. I want to ask you a little bit more about free agency. I think one of the reports we saw, and we don't know what's going on. I think we just saw that Tampa Bay was another one of the teams showing interest in you, and obviously we know who's over there. Was there ever a point where you thought your time in New England was going to come to an end, and sort of how did that play out?
I mean, free agency is really strange, honestly. Day to day, everything kind of changes a little bit. I mean, some days a team may have interest, the next day they may not, and the next day they might have interest. So it's a little different than you can ever imagine. There's a lot of kind of worrying what's going to be next and where you're going to be at next. But like I said, obviously the Patriots were in the mix the whole time, and it's good to be back. And it's to get back with these guys and just find a way to improve and starts now.
And this will be year 8 for you. I guess 1, did you envision your NFL career lasting this long? It doesn't for a lot of people. And 2, what does it mean for you just to be in New England this entire time?
Obviously, everybody when we get to the NFL, we think we're going to play for 20 years, like Tom and such. But that's kind of an unrealistic thing. But each year I have the opportunity to play. I don't take it for granted. There's many people that would love to be in my shoes, so I just try and use every day, whether it's working out in the off season or working out at the facility and practice, and just attack it with a good attitude and put my best foot forward every day. And that's what I try and do. And to be in the same place for 8 years, that's also not too common. So definitely blessed when it comes to that too.
And here's one more for me, I promise. Obviously, the running back room changes all the time. Rex isn't there right now, but Ramondre Stevenson is. Just what are your thoughts on the group as a whole heading into this year?
We have a good group of guys. Everybody has their own unique style, and I think that's really cool. We always have different styles of running backs in our group, and like I said, every time everybody knows we're not going to play 100% of the snaps, and we all just work together, have fun, and make the most of our opportunities. And like I said, we have a lot of capable guys and guys who compete and have fun.
Thanks, James.
No problem.
Next, we'll go to Chris Ryan, then Ian Steele.
Hey, James. So Paul as well with you. Wanted to touch base on the free agency process too, and what was it like for you when you're seeing the Patriots going out and signing guy after guy after guy while you're in your process? And did that influence you at all? You're like, "What? This is something's happening here, and I wanna be back." Did that play at all?
I don't think necessarily. I think when it comes to it, you have to make the decision that's best for yourself and your family. And me, myself, having a wife and 2 kids, you're just trying to make the most informed decision and keep them in mind when you're making that decision. So I think that's what was most important when it came to my decision making. And like I said, it's good to be back here, a place I'm very familiar with, obviously. So good to be back.
That being said, now that you're back here, what does this football team look like on paper to you? And do you feel like this is a reloaded team that is back and ready to compete at the level that you guys are used to?
I mean, only time will tell. Doesn't necessarily matter how many guys you have staying, how many guys you have coming back, how many new guys you have coming in, and all that stuff. It's all about how you perform each and every week. And like I said, it's a long time before we get out there for a preseason game or a regular season game. So each day, just everybody's working to improve and put their best foot forward to build team camaraderie, and hopefully everything comes together by the time those games count.
And David Andrews said that, he was ready to play football with this group. He was ready to get going. He was excited to do so and get things working in the offseason. Do you feel that way as well? Is there more, of an anticipation of that than maybe in other years?
I think you're always excited about it. And I think everybody's probably extra excited because obviously we didn't perform our best last year. And everybody's excited, chomping at the bit to get back out there and just be better, compete in practice, compete in games, and make each other better. Like I said, just all about improvement.
Thanks. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And next we'll go to Ian Steele.
Hey, James, another one for me. What was the deciding factor to come back to New England point blank?
I'll just say very familiar with everybody. They always put me in a position to succeed, and being back around these guys in the locker room, we have a great group of guys that helped me shape the person and the player who I am today, the coaches and the players. So it was only right to come back and compete. And like I said, last year we didn't do our best, so it's going to be fun to come out here and see how excited everybody is to get back out there, compete, and improve.
Thanks, James.
And then we'll go to Kyle Hightower, then back to Mike Reese.
Hey James, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Appreciate it. I apologize if you answered this already. I missed the very first question, but we saw the statement through the NFLPA where it said many Patriot players have decided they're going to skip voluntary workouts and stuff. I'm curious where you came down on that, and will you be attending personally or in person? And and for those who aren't, is there still like a threat? There's still the threat of COVID and stuff out there, kind of preventing guys from going to do that again this year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot of different factors when it comes to the off-season workouts. They're voluntary. I think whatever decision guys make, whether they're at the facility or whether they're not, I think it's all about guys just working out, staying in shape, getting their playbooks, whether it's being in the virtual meetings, whether it's not in the virtual meetings, just being prepared. I think that's what it's all about. We're all pros, and I think the coaches, they put the trust in you during the offseason to put the work in, whether it's at the facility or not. It's up to you to put the work in and make sure you're prepared, taking care of your body. So I think that's what's most important. Obviously, there's been a lot of statements and everything released, but I think everybody's pros, and whatever decision guys make, as long as they're doing the right things on and off the field, and in the weight rooms and things of that nature, making sure they're prepared and ready to go. I think that's all that really matters.
Has COVID kind of been one of the fortunate things that COVID kind of showed, just kind of how there are different ways to work out, different ways to get your body prepared, not necessarily the same old grind that has been going on for years and years? Is that one kind of fortunate thing that's kind of maybe just open for discussion amongst players, that maybe there is a different way to do OTAs in the offseason?
Yeah, most definitely. I think COVID kind of opened eyes when it came to that aspect, to see that maybe you don't necessarily have to do the same things that have always been done, but I'm sure over time things will change, and obviously it's not just going to be a one-sided thing. What's better for this side or what's better for that side? It's going to have to everybody come together to figure out what's best.
Thanks, James.
No problem.
And last question, I'll go to Mike Reese.
Awesome. James, tomorrow night, the league is going to announce its schedule. So you already know who who the Patriots are playing. We will find out when.
Mm-hmm.
As a player, what do you look for on a night like that?
I guess probably the first game, see who you're going up against that first week. I think that's really what's the most exciting part, seeing who you're going to go up against that first week. It's going to be an exciting year, get an extra game, and going to be a lot of good competition. It's going to be a lot of fun. Obviously, you see who you're playing during the preseason as well, and whether there's going to be joint practices. I don't know if that's going to be back or not. So it's going to be fun, and I know guys are excited to kind of get back out there and get back to it.
So like from my perspective, like I'll be looking for like when is the Buccaneers coming back, like with Tom, right? Like does that at all? I'm serious. I'm more curious, like does that at all cross your mind, or is it more like, do we get the late season game in Miami so I can get some heat, like does that at all come into your mind, or is that maybe more fans, media type thing?
I mean, you think about those things obviously, but you just gotta take it one week at a time. You can't look at whether you're playing Miami in week 1 or Miami in week 17 or whatever, week 18, whatever it is now. You kind of think about it as it gets closer to the time. You can't get too far ahead of yourself.
But like week 17 for Tom, like get him in the scuba suit. Is that what we're thinking? Like, or early in the season would be better.
He's gonna be prepared either way. So.
Thanks for the time, James.
No problem.
James, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon.